Hello, denizens. Joe Rogan is a problem. But if I might add, not of his own making, and not the problem you think I'm referring to, though that might still happen. We are in the eye of a hurricane of change on multiple fronts, and it's all interconnected. Joe being anointed as the anti-mainstream news oracle of truth, the ongoing DEI fight. What is a woman? Students for terrorists, anti-West marches, non-crime arrests, CRT, pronouns, Donald J. Trump. Part 2, woke destruction of pop culture IPs, moribund film industry, micro-entertainment, downfall of education, dearth of comedy, gender woo, post-truth, feelings, tribalism, decline of traditional news, rise of alternative viewpoints on alternative platforms, hence Joe Rogan. He is perceived as a huge problem to the mainstream media, mainly because journalism has been self-destructing for some time now, and for some reason, journalists hate him for having 3-hour interviews with Rob Schneider. The problem is that Rogan has become a far bigger political influencer than anyone on CNN, MSNBC, CBS, or Fox. In fact, his numbers dwarf the combined audiences of the aforementioned. Political influence is their turf. What's this bodybuilder, stand-up comedian, ex-host of Fear Factor, UFC color commentator, out-influencing trained banshees like Joy Reid? Of course, Joe is no more a trained journalist than the women of The View, but when he gets the boys together, the experience is funny, whereas The View reminds you of why you divorced your wife. I don't care how Rogan got to where he is. He is where he is because he's where he is. The left-leaning press freaked out when he had Trump on for no other reason that he had Trump on, while forgetting that during Trump's first run for the presidency, publishing endless negative stories about him was like printing money. Les Moonves of CBS said no less. The joke was that Trump benefited from the boundless hours of free publicity. Don't forget that Rogan said he would not interview Trump at the time. This time around, the networks pulled way back on the coverage, but the talking heads didn't stop their deranged negative editorializing. CBS's Kamala edit really hurt the reputation of CBS. As a trusted news source, MSNBC, it's always off its rocker, the questionable debate hosted by ABC News. And there Trump was on Rogan's shooting his shit, having a jolly good time, not really talking politics. Joe humanized Trump, and the organs sympathetic to the Democratic Party flipped out. One, because they hate Trump on a level so deep that several openly regretted the shooter missed. And 2, there wasn't any way to humanize Kamala. The problem for the mainstream media is that Joe is a natural phenomenon that seems to have caught them by surprise. Listen to this screed by the Australian ABC chairman Kim Williams, a government-funded network so left they make Al Jazeera pro-Israel.
I'm not sure that I'm the right person to respond to that question. I am not a consumer or enthusiast about Mr. Rogan and his work.
Shocking.
I am not one of the 3 billion, and I'm unlikely to be 3 billion and one anytime soon. I think people like Mr. Rogan prey on people's vulnerabilities. They prey on fear. They prey on anxiety. They prey on all of the elements that contribute to uncertainty in society, and they entrepreneur conspiracy outcomes. I personally find it deeply repulsive to think that someone has such remarkable power in the United States is something that I look at in disbelief. I'm also absolutely in dismay that this can be a source of public entertainment when it's really treating the public as plunder for purposes that are really quite malevolent.
What an arrogant, out-of-touch prat. And doesn't he just look the part? I would like to remind you that this is the same network that fabricated a video that falsely accused an Australian war veteran of a crime he didn't commit. Well, that's what Australians get for handing over $1.2 billion in taxpayer dollars. Joe Rogan is deeply repulsive and malevolent. Apart from the bizarre, flowery, and incongruous choice of words, how does Kim know if, as he admitted, never listened to or watched Rogan's show? This is exactly the kind of high-quality journalism one can expect from a publicly funded broadcaster that can't come close to Rogan's reach and popularity. The man is clearly jealous. It's the same for our CBC. I've always had a soft spot for the CBC. I mean, I've worked for them. It has a magnificent history, but it seems that is all it has now, as fewer than 3% of Canadians watch the CBC, and that's costing us $1.5 billion a year. Perhaps it's time we shove these birds out of the nest and let them fend for themselves, the way Rogan and many others are doing in the marketplace of ideas. If your excuse is that it takes a lot of resources and expertise and high salaried professionals to create programming that no one watches, well, then that's a problem. The one thing I will say is that it does take resources and time for reporters in the field to do a proper job. It doesn't take any effort for Mika, Joe, and Maddow to read off a teleprompter. Real reportage is still required, as that is what Joe is usually riffing on. Where's it going to come from? But there's no doubt that news is broken, especially when it comes to accountability. Those of us who earned our place online are accountable to our audience every day. Our income is based on our performance and not from taxpayers or media conglomerates. The dismal ratings of our public and private broadcasters is evidence of their lack of accountability. It's a brave new world, and the MSM has missed the boat, it seems. Were there any amongst the professional press contemplating making an offer to Joe Rogan? I don't know. Not sure Joe would have accepted. Why are all you journalists mad at him? He just talks to people, mostly goofy people, and they talk about silly stuff, guy stuff, people you would never talk to. Are you mad because he sometimes roasts you mercilessly for your obviously stupid takes? That's mean, Joe. Then his minions flood your comments. You're mad at the Joe Rogan Experience, not because it is news, but because it makes news. Do you think Joe does not understand the impact he is having? Is it going to go to his head? Maybe, he'll let me know if he'll let me interview him. I can ask. If the mainstream media is complaining about his reach, they only have themselves to blame. MSNBC is not going to expand its reach by featuring its slate of tired old talking heads. The MSM hates Joe for the same reason many on the left are abandoning X, or announcing that they're abandoning X. The UK's Guardian has announced they are leaving X. The reason, of course, was that X has this wonderful community notes feature, and the Guardian has been brutally fact-checked, and they don't like it. Their problem with X is not that they can't freely post their views, but because they don't like it when we post ours. Disgusting. That is the parochial bubble the purveyors of news enjoyed for decades. Not anymore, and that's a good thing. Everyone is biased. Often that bias is represented by the stories not being reported. I personally don't have a problem with a network having an editorial policy. That has been the case for centuries in news. The problem I have is that when you present your story, don't lie. Don't spin it. Joe Rogan is clever and charming, but not smarter than many of his guests. He's good at asking Socratic questions because he's infinitely curious, yet he believes some of the wacky shit some of his wackier guests say, but that's not a reason for me to not watch him. The experience is first and foremost an entertainment show, which is why watching the mainstream media, including The View, self-destruct over it, well, that's what makes it so appealing. Will Joe be doing this forever? I mean, probably not. What's more telling is that I can't think of who I've seen who could replace him. Is he the Johnny Carson of podcasters? I don't know, and that's problematic because his influence is only going to grow in the near term. We do need others of Rogan's scale to keep things on the boil and, maybe keep Joe honest. I do like trigonometry. Lex Fridman is too dull. I don't know. You tell me who your favorite podcast influencers are, but no regurgitators like Tim Pool or The Quartering. In the meantime, I think Rogan should bring on more animal acts. The next time, denizens, be seeing you.